This is a really cool kind of day when you get the water calm, which like this, which we would call slick calm, except for it's not glassy calm. And obviously on the Outer Banks we don't get a whole lot of just really calm days. And but what I really like about this is the various wave patterns or wave energy that you can see when it's like this. The sun shining, a really beautiful angle. We've had some rain, so we got the right kind of like moisture in the atmosphere to cause the sunlight just to shine just a certain way. You got the clouds reflecting off of the water, but there's a frequency of wave energy that's sort of these, they're not big swells, obviously. It looks really calm, but you can see it, the more spaced out waves coming in. That's a one wave energy. And then there's like these little tiny, just the water's almost like shimmering on the surface. And that wave energy is at a different frequency. And so when waves of the same frequency interact, you get one kind of wave pattern. And when you have this wave energy of different patterns interacting, is they just kind of like flow through one another. So this shimmering wave energy is just kind of resting on top of this wave energy that's of what we would say of a greater frequency. The waves, the frequency is lower. The big waves are a lower frequency. They're coming, but they're probably a higher amplitude, or they definitely are a higher amplitude. The amplitude is the distance between the top of the wave and the bottom of the wave, but they're spread out. So the distance between them, you could say, for lack of a better word, is the frequency. It's really how fast they're moving past a given point, but typically when the wave spreads out, the length spreads out, the frequency goes down. Most of the time, for the most part, especially when you're talking about something that's in the same medium, like if you were in the, anyhow. So we got a lower frequency wave and a shimmering wave up here. I don't even know what the frequency of that is. And then you have, because the fish, there's quite a bit of life in the water, and it's creating all these smaller ripples, and that wave energy is spreading out and interacting with the ripples on the surface. And you can see all of these different wave patterns interacting, and it's just kind of like it is. I mean, that's like a visual orchestra. So when we hear wave patterns from different instruments in an orchestra or a band or whatever, that's what we're hearing. We're hearing the different frequencies that those different instruments are making, and they're all in concert with one another, making some sort of hopefully beautiful music. And when you get to see the water like this, you're seeing like a visual orchestra, and it's really interesting. And if you see like a little school of fish or shrimp or something come by here, it like sparkles, like you got a bigger fish and you're making that puddle across the surface, and then all the shimmering of the small ripples on the surface, and then these larger frequencies coming through, and the light has to be just right to really see all of this. But the lighting is just perfect. It's basically like a visual orchestra, essentially. But what gets even more interesting is to think about where all this energy is coming from. Like, it's ultimately, for the most part, it's all just, it starts off as the energy coming from the sun, and it either creates turbulence in the air, which creates wind, and is usually the cause of the bigger ripples. You can have other things too, like you could have tectonic activity, things like that, but we don't have too much of that here. So mostly the bigger wave patterns are coming from wind energy. And then you have like the sun, think about this, creates growth in the environment of plant life, and that feeds something, and then something bigger feeds on that, and then that energy ends up in these little organisms. Still the sun though is the beginning energy, and then that energy is in their, drives the metabolism in their cells, and that causes the little animals to move. And then when they move, that energy then goes back out and back out into the water. So one way or the other, the sun, for the most part, puts energy into the environment, and then through different processes, that energy then ends up going back into creating wave energy. So all the wave energy, for the most part, starts with the solar energy coming from the sun, and in one form or the other, ending up as energy, and going back through the the water. So and then that ends up transferring into other areas, like mostly going up against the shoreline, and being absorbed by the shoreline. And if that wave energy is not too strong, it just kind of gets absorbed into the ground, just is able to absorb that without transforming much. But if that wave energy gets a little bit stronger, then that's when you start getting erosion, because that the whatever the shoreline or whatever is made out of can't absorb that much energy without deforming. And then we get into things like geomorphology. So this energy is always getting passed all around through the environment. It's never, it's neither created or destroyed, so to speak. It's like it's the same energy, just moving through different forms. Of course, we have when you get into the nuclear processes, and now you have energy between matter and energy are interchangeable. And of course, when we start talking about nuclear processes, then now we're talking about the changing of mass to energy, and less often energy to mass, but that does go both ways anyhow. But I think it's just so beautiful here when you look at these wave patterns and wave energy, and you can see it. Everything is just right. The conditions are just right to see the different frequencies of wave patterns with your eyes, and the reflections and everything shimmering on the water, and created by the little animals, and that energy going out, and there's ripples spreading out. You can hear noises too. Obviously, you can hear the fish ripple through and whatnot. But mostly, it's a visual thing. But it's a visual orchestra. It just looks so beautiful, and with the clouds and everything. So it would look different. It would be beautiful too if it was just completely slick calm. But the ripples give it a different element. Maybe I should have just stood here really still. But there's the little fish again down there. But it's kind of like neat to be right over top of where the little fish are, because when you look right over top of them, right, like it's kind of neat from here. But when you're right over top of them, it's just you can kind of just see them moving around like little particles, right? And it's really not that much different than like when they study wave energy at the particle level. It's actually can look a lot like this, but isn't that neat? You got these little creatures making this artwork, this natural artwork. Look at that. You could really capture that. Like, you make a really about a 15-second clip, real still. Making like a nice, like a moving photograph, basically. Not a movie, but just a photograph in motion. If you put it on the right kind of screen and all, it could look really neat. All right. enjoy everything that nature provides us, all these beautiful, wonderful things. Just something to appreciate. The best things to appreciate. I love you.